The man you see right here is Maxim Igor Popov. Round face, wire-rimmed glasses, a slightly nervous laugh that makes people underestimate him the moment they meet him. Look at him and you see a university student cramming for an exam in a campus cafeteria. But this man hacked the world's most powerful law enforcement agency twice. The second time, he sold them the solution and walked away with an official FBI commendation letter praising his invaluable assistance to the United States of America. This is the story of Maxim Popov, a kid who grew up in the back streets of Zhytomyr and turned America's most powerful institution into his personal chessboard. But pay attention, this is not a cybercrime story. This is the story of a man for whom trust never worked the way it does for most people. And the story of the only person who understood that difference and lost everything because of it. Zhytomyr, a 1,000-year-old city 2 hours west of Kyiv. The Soviet Union had just collapsed. Ukraine was trying to figure out what it was. The streets were uncertain. The future was uncertain. Everything was uncertain. But for young Maxim, one thing was never uncertain. The old Poisk 1 computer at his school, the Ukrainian-made clone that kids in this part of the world used while American children learned on IBMs. When he first sat down in front of that screen, something opened. While other kids ran around during recess, he stared at lines of code. People could tell this child was different. At 15, he saw the internet for the first time, and he watched the 1995 film, Hackers. The film taught him two things. First, talent meant money. Second, if you could beat the system, it didn't matter who you were. Those two ideas planted themselves in Maxim's mind and never left. Over the years, he worked his way into Eastern Europe's most dangerous cybercrime circles. He broke into American companies' databases, stole credit card numbers, extorted companies into paying to keep their breaches quiet. By the time he was 20, he was a known name in this world. But something was starting to bother him. Zhytomyr was becoming dangerous. Street gangs were applying pressure. And Maxim, who had become skilled at calculating risk, saw it clearly. The cost of continuing this work here was getting too high. A bold idea came to him. He would go to America, turn himself into the FBI, get hired as a cybersecurity expert, and start fresh. Eventually, he would build his own company, make serious money, live a legitimate life. He spent 4 months negotiating with American officials, made multiple visits to the US Embassy in London, offered them the map of Eastern Europe's cybercrime networks, the names, the methods. In exchange, he wanted a new identity, a legal job, and a clean slate. The agent smiled, shook his hand, made promises. They were lying. January 19th, 2001, JFK Airport, New York. Exactly 7 hours and 23 minutes after takeoff, Maxim's feet touched American soil, and the smiles on the faces of the agents who had bought him drinks in London vanished instantly. Handcuffs clicked into place. No visa, an arrest warrant, no welcome dinner, an isolation cell. A prosecutor slid a single sheet of paper under the bars. Cooperate, or rot in federal prison for 30 years. Maxim looked at that paper, then looked at the agent. And in that moment, he understood something important. The good guys could lie too. Very well, in fact. That information would serve him well later. For 3 months, every morning at 8, agents collected him from the jail and took him to an office. They handcuffed his wrist to a table in front of a Cyrillic keyboard, watched him log into Russian hacker forums, recorded every keystroke. The FBI thought one thing was happening. Maxim was doing something else entirely. He sat down smiling. His fingers touched the keys. And in the street, Russian slang that none of his handlers understood well enough to catch in real time, he sent one consistent message to his old network. Over and over, in different forms, to different people. Scatter. Uncle Sam is watching. 3 months, hundreds of warnings. 0 FBI agents fluent enough in underground Russian to notice it happening right in front of them. When the Bureau's linguists finally translated the full chat logs in April, one agent threw a chair across the room. Their star informant had been burning them from day one. They raided the safe house, stripped his privileges, threw him in county jail. And as the cell door slammed shut, Maxim didn't beg, didn't plead. He looked at the agent standing in front of him and said 8 words. You have no idea what you're dealing with. 2,400 miles away in Santa Ana, California, a young FBI agent read Maxim's file and saw the exact opposite of what everyone in Washington was seeing. Not a disaster, an opportunity. E.J. Hilbert had spent 3 years tracking Eastern European cybercriminals, and he understood something his colleagues hadn't figured out yet. You can't enter this world through conventional means. You need someone who speaks its language, someone who has been inside. You need a wolf to catch a wolf. 2 questions followed him onto the red-eye flight to Virginia. Can you really trust a hacker who has already burned you once? And what happens when you hand a con artist a badge? Summer 2002. Hilbert sat across from Maxim in a county jail interview room and made an offer that sounded completely insane. Help us infiltrate the world's largest cybercrime forum. Do it successfully. Walk free. One condition. He worked from a jail cell by day. He hunted hackers by night. The operation was called Ant City. The target was Carter Planet. Launched in 2001 by Ukrainian and Russian hackers, this platform brought something entirely new to the criminal underground: scalability. A digital marketplace where stolen lives were bought and sold with the casual efficiency of an online shop. Credit card numbers for $1. Social security numbers for $5. Complete identities. Mother's maiden name, childhood address, first pet's name. $30, shipping included. An eBay-style rating system. Organized message boards. Tens of thousands of users. And Maxim had to build his reputation here from scratch. Not as an informant, as the forum's biggest buyer. The FBI gave him a $50,000 budget. Buy. Every purchase was a trap. When criminals shipped stolen cards to his fake address, they committed a federal crime. Hilbert traced each card back to its source. One purchase exposed a hacked hotel chain affecting 50,000 guests. Another uncovered a department store that had been silently bleeding customer data for 6 months. It was brilliant. It was working. And then came Thanksgiving. On the day Americans sat around family tables, Maxim sat alone in an FBI conference room. No visitors, no phone calls. Officially, he didn't exist. Hilbert walked in carrying a full Thanksgiving feast: turkey, stuffing, cranberry sauce, pumpkin pie. Then he wheeled in a projector and put on The Lord of the Rings. All 3 hours of it. They didn't discuss cases. They didn't talk strategy. They just sat in a government conference room and watched hobbits save the world while eating pie. Maxim later said this was the moment everything changed. Not because of the food. Because for the first time since his feet had touched American soil, someone had treated him like a human being rather than a tool. That night in his cell, he noticed something. Hilbert was different from the others, and that difference created something complicated inside Maxim. He wanted to protect him, and he wanted to use the opportunity. Both were true. Neither canceled the other out. On the forum, they called him Script. No real name, no location, no photograph. One of Carter Planet's co-founders and the man who personally handled the platform's largest transactions. Careful, experienced, and he had never made a mistake. Maxim spent 6 weeks building a cover. He played a Ukrainian middleman with connections to corrupt bank employees. Patient, methodical, earning trust one conversation at a time. Finally, Script agreed to a test purchase, $400 worth of premium cards. The package arrived at FBI headquarters wrapped in Ukrainian newspaper. Inside, 200 credit cards stolen within the previous 72 hours. But Script had made one small mistake, the kind most people wouldn't think twice about. He included a handwritten note. Hilbert ran the handwriting through international databases. Script was Roman Vega. He lived in Odessa. 6 months later, Ukrainian police knocked on his door at 4 in the morning. His sentence was light, almost laughably so, but the message spread through every corner of the underground. Nobody was untouchable. February 2003, 8 million credit card numbers were stolen from Data Processing International in a single breach. 8 million, not a typo. The FBI was panicking. Then Maxim received a message from someone calling themselves Re. I know who has the cards. I can broker the entire database. Interested? Re was 21 years old. He lived with his mother in St. Petersburg. He thought he was talking to a fellow criminal. He was actually negotiating with the FBI's most dangerous weapon. But there was a problem. Why would a small-time buyer suddenly want $200,000 worth of stolen cards? Maxim needed to look like the real thing. At a Bank of America branch in Los Angeles, $200,000 in $100 bills was pulled from a secure vault. The mission: make Maxim look like someone Re had never encountered and should be afraid of. Camera set up. Maxim rehearsed his lines in Russian. He grabbed a stack of bills, fanned them like a poker hand, held one up to the light. See the watermarks? Real American money, ready to transfer whenever you are. Bundles tossed around like notebooks. 47 seconds. It worked perfectly. If this story has your attention, now is a good time to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. These videos take serious time to research and write, and every single comment gets read. It genuinely matters. But Maxim didn't just want the cards. He wanted Re's real name. So he built a fake company, Hermes Plast, a credit card manufacturing firm looking for security consultants. Built a website, created email addresses, wrote fake employee profiles. Then casually mentioned to Re that they were hiring. Starting salary, $70,000. Re practically broke his keyboard typing his application. Full name, home address, passport scan, 3 references. The FBI analyst watching this laughed out loud. Did this guy just apply for a job at his own sting operation? Within 72 hours, Re's real name, Denis Sokolov, was known, and an Interpol red notice had been issued. April 15, 2003. A federal judge reviewed Maxim's file. 8 months of successful undercover work. $70 million in prevented fraud. Multiple high-value arrests across 2 continents. Time served. Effective immediately. The FBI set him up with $1,000 a month and an apartment near Huntington Beach. They thought they had bought his loyalty. They thought they understood him. They hadn't understood a single thing about Maxim Popov. California felt foreign to him. He knew the language, but not the system. He couldn't get a driver's license, couldn't get insurance. Even opening a bank account was difficult. Hilbert worked to get a judge's permission for a short visit to Ukraine. But when he dropped Maxim at the airport, he knew. He wouldn't see him again. He never came back. Back in Ukraine, he launched a new company called Sigmos, Cybercrime Monitoring Systems. Monitor the underground, alert companies to data breaches, charge for the service. Exactly what he had been doing for the FBI. Just this time for himself. New Year's Eve, 2004, 11:47 p.m. Hilbert's phone rang, champagne glasses clinking somewhere in the background. Maxim's voice cut through the noise. Check your email. The FBI had been hacked. Not a minor incident. through an X25 networking protocol built in 1976 that nobody had thought to update because nobody remembered it still existed. Someone had obtained full access to every FBI.gov email address, every agent, every active case, every confidential informant, and Maxime was offering to fix it, for a price. The files he sent made Hilbert's blood go cold. The first was an 11-page classified dossier on a mob boss the Bureau was building a major RICO case against. The seventh was a spreadsheet of every hacker being hunted by the FBI and Secret Service, sorted by jurisdiction, annotated with notes reading cooperating witness and surveillance authorized. The header on every page in bold, "Do not transmit over internet," yet here it was, pulled directly from FBI servers. Someone at the Bureau had typed those words and then emailed the document anyway. Within 6 hours, Hilbert was on a plane to Washington. Within 12, he was in a room with the FBI director. Within 24, the White House chief of staff was demanding answers. The Bureau cut a check to Maxime's company for $10,000. The first time in FBI history they had paid a foreign national, one who had quietly skipped his probation conditions, to fix a breach of their own servers. Nobody asked the obvious question. How did Maxime find out about this so fast? Here is what $10,000 bought. Maxime identified the hacker as Leonid Sokolov, provided his address in St. Petersburg, even arranged an introduction. Hilbert went undercover in a Russian forum. Within 3 messages, Sokolov was bragging about the breach. Within 10, he was explaining exactly how he did it. Within 20, he was offering to sell more stolen FBI files. The easiest confession Hilbert had ever obtained. Too easy. But when you're drowning, you don't question the life preserver. The FBI issued a sealed indictment. Interpol added Sokolov to their watch list, and Hilbert wrote Maxim an official letter of commendation on FBI letterhead, praising his invaluable assistance to the United States of America. Maxime posted it on his company website the same day. He was now officially an FBI-endorsed security consultant. February 10th, 2005. An FBI agent opened a secure email attachment and his face went white. The Bureau's entire active target list, real names of undercover informants, active case codes, 11 pages, pulled from their own servers. But what made every agent in the room genuinely sick wasn't the breach itself. It was who did it. "Who is Dennis Pinhouse?" A prosecutor's voice crackled through a speakerphone. 5 senior FBI officials were staring at Hilbert. He had 3 seconds. Protect his source or save his career. He couldn't do both. Dennis Pinhouse was Maxime's alias. The day before, he had approached EMC Corporation about their stolen source code. "VMware software worth $500 million. I can help contain your breach." EMC heard something different. Pay up or the code goes public. They called the FBI's Boston office. Boston wanted blood. In the silence, someone mentioned Whitey Bulger. The comparison was deliberate. Hilbert was either corrupt or incompetent. No, his refusal came out harder than intended. He's working on sensitive ongoing operations. Exposing him would compromise national security. True, but not the whole truth. 72 hours later, Hilbert was under investigation for conspiracy, wire fraud, and obstruction of justice. His computer was seized, his files audited. Colleagues who used to grab coffee with him now avoided eye contact in the hallway. The hero of Ant City had become radioactive. One detail broke him more than all the rest. His 5-year-old daughter asked why Daddy seemed sad all the time. He couldn't tell her the truth. Meanwhile, Maxime collected his EMC payment, $30,000 wired directly to his account. The FBI didn't know. EMC didn't mention it. Everyone was lying to everyone, and Hilbert was the only one paying the price. August 2006. Hilbert's supervisor called him in. The promotion he had worked toward for 8 years had been denied. Reason: pending investigation. He placed his badge and his gun on the desk. Badge number 4982. Glock 23. Serial number RKK291. 15 years of service. Ended by a man he had tried to help. The DOJ quietly dropped all charges in 2009, but there is no mechanism for quietly unruining a career. Hilbert rebuilt as a private security consultant. Successful. He never forgot. 2012. 7 years of silence. Then Hilbert's phone rang. Ukrainian number on the caller ID. I wanted to thank you. Maxim's voice was older, quieter. For the Thanksgiving dinner. For treating me like a person. You were the only friend I had in that whole country. They talked for 3 hours. Then, almost as an afterthought, Maxim said the thing that reframed every single moment of the previous 11 years. You know, I was the one who hacked the FBI, right? Leonid Sokolov and I did it together. We used the X.25 vulnerability to pull the files. Then I sold you the solution for $10,000. Sokolov confessed because I paid him to. The whole thing was my operation from the beginning. The FBI paid the man who robbed them to catch himself. They gave him a commendation letter for solving his own crime. They destroyed the career of the one agent who believed in him, to protect the person who had been playing all of them from the very beginning. Were you ever suspicious? Maxim asked. Genuinely curious. Sometimes, Hilbert admitted. But I wanted to believe you had changed. That is the cruelest part. Hilbert wasn't naive. He was hopeful. I never changed, Maxim said, then added something nobody saw coming. But who cares? I still love you. Because for Maxim, love and betrayal were never opposites. He genuinely cared about Hilbert. He also genuinely destroyed him. In his mind, these two things never conflicted. That is what made him dangerous, not the technical skills, the ability to mean it when he said he loved you, and mean it equally when he took everything you had. Maxim walked free. No arrest, no extradition, no punishment. Hilbert rebuilt, carries the scars. When you hire a thief to catch thieves, remember, they are still a thief. Now, the man you just heard about worked from the inside. He ate the FBI's food, lived in their safe house, and used every single piece of it against them. But there is another kind of operator entirely. Someone who never asked for access, never negotiated with any agency. He simply looked at one of the most dangerous regimes on Earth, found the door they forgot to lock, and walked straight through it, alone, from his home office, in pajamas. North Korea came after him first. The FBI did nothing, and Alejandro Caceres decided to handle it himself. That story is already on this channel. It is waiting for you right here.